Thank you. Okay, let's start. This is going to be a two-part talk. We're going to do the oh no bit at the beginning, and then with the okay doing stuff at the other end. I'll be talking in the first bit. You might be doing some chatting to each other in the second bit, but we'll be fine. Okay, I mostly come out of accessible design, particularly in physical and cognitive design. I don't really do digital much, oddly. Specifically, I work in wayfinding design, a lot of maps and a lot of web signage systems. Particularly, I work in tactile design for people with visual impairments. And also I work a lot in co-design facilitation, which in some ways came out of the fact that I spent a lot of time doing usability testing, doing research. And where do we start with the oh no? The oh no is mostly because I kept being incredibly aggravated by something which came up a lot in design. And that was edge users. And my hatred of edge users as a phrase is very, very high. Because there aren't edge users. What you've got is this. It's people choosing to be in a specific place and choosing to share a specific perspective and then saying, there's those people over there. And design has an awful habit of doing this. Design, and particularly in terms of this talk, design has a specific habit of choosing to share the space with the normal kids. And then standing around saying, those people over there are edge users. And it's wrong. And it means that fundamentally we other people almost directly in the processes that we have. We make the edge users, we make the other. And then, and this comes up a lot in co-design, we doubt them. We doubt their lived experiences, we doubt their living experiences. Because they're over there. They're not with the normal kids. And it's wrong. So, we're going to talk about the problem of normal. And that's difficult. Because if you talk about normal, you're going to have to be able to talk about quite historic and broad issues. This is more for if you look for the slide deck later. This is a quick bibliography of books which are helpful. Top half is mostly the stuff we're going to be talking about in the first half. Bottom two are from what we're going to be talking about in the second half. End of Average is probably my favourite book around this subject. Superior and Invisible Women are extremely good books and changed the way in which I do and think. Normality is, if any of you need to have heavy-duty academic research to hit people over the head with, it's a very good book, it's a very big book. The Power of Disagreement and the World That Gets Along, Charlotte Nemeth, that came up in lots of work I was doing a couple of years ago. And Moral Ambition is a very new book, but is really quite helpful. Okay. Normal's hard to criticise because normal is normal. It's everywhere. It's the thing that you live in. It's criticising water for goldfish. But let's try. There are two big problems for me. One is the inherent bias in normal, and it's a terrible bias. And the other one is that convergence, the idea of convergence, is a trap. Because the convergence creates exclusion. So let's talk about normal. Now, generally speaking, over the years, I've found it very hard to get people to stop talking about normal, or stop using normal, because people will always justify what they believe in the present. So the reason we're going backwards in time is to sabotage those people. People would defend the most awful bullshit in the present because they think that that's part of their belief system. You need to get them away from it. So going into the past is a way of trying to get them to eject it from the present, and so they don't do it in the future. So we're going to talk some history. Okay, there's been about 190 years of normal, which isn't that long, to be honest. There is a very good Radio 4 programme about it, talking about, particularly from neurodivergent sense, which I'll try and post later. But 190 years of normal. I'm just going to pick 4 people because it's worth picking 4 people just to give you a sense of how the hell we got to here and what the hell the problem is. So we've got Quetelet, Galton, Thorndike and Burt. This is going to be a talk about a lot of old white men. Unsurprisingly. Okay, Quetelet, Belgium, 1835-ish. He invents the idea of social statistics. Statistics have been always in astronomy. He invents the idea that you can use it in social work, in terms of research with people. He goes around, he does the classic one is, he measures the chest measurements of Highland troops, and then he gets the bell curve. He also invented body mass index, but he invented it purely as a data demonstrator, because it's easy. You know the height of the people, you know the weight of the people. Ta-da, you've got BMI. It's basically a technology sort of simulation sort of thing, which is easy and sounds cool. It's not supposed to mean anything. Anywho, he gets you the idea of the bell curve. He gets you the idea of the nice curve. And that's fine. I mean, that's maths. That's statistics. But, and if we're looking for a main villain, Galton is the main villain. Galton is the inventor of eugenics. London University. Galton gets you the idea that you can take this idea of we can do this measurement thing, and says that of course that means you can now rank people, because you can start putting lines in it from those people over there to those people over there. And this comes up in a period of empire, colonisation, all the rest of it, where people are really, really looking for categorisation and ranking. Because they really, really want to be able to say, these people are inferior, these people are superior. And eugenics is the way they get to it. He wants to rank people. He wants to create categories. So data categorisation in social terms comes up here. So now we've got, let's collect data on people. Let's rank people and put them in categories. And then we get Thorndike. Thorndike's American. He's mostly interested in education, but he's interested in education in the sense that he wants people to know, and so this gets into the idea of certification. So if we've got the ranking going down there, now we've got certification. So really gridding off who people are and what they are. Because what he wants is the right people to become managers of companies. He wants the right people to be in charge. So those people, dumb people, who don't pass their exams, they can work in the factory. These people who are clever, they should run the factory. He's wanting to use certification, categorisation, to be able to choose who should have what jobs, who should have what social situation. And that's what he's interested in. So now you've got all of this thing dividing human beings into specific categories, certificates, meaning. And that's pretty bad, but not the worst. What you need to go, if you want to really go worst, is you go to Burt, who, however bizarre this seems, used to play in the garden of Galton. Family connections are all. What his research is interested in is the eugenic idea, and in particular he studies twins, that certain people are genetically better. Certain people are better. Inherent in that That means certain people are genetically worse. What he's trying to prove is the people who are in charge now are in charge now because they were always superior. Aristocrats, all of these people, the reason they're in charge is because they're genetically better from common people. And that's what he's wanted to do. I mean, you know, there is nothing here which is good in terms of science. He's using science to prove that his idea of social ranking is correct. The weird thing is about his research on twins is Harvard actually asked him for it, and he couldn't send it. And then they said, really? And he said, well, actually my two researchers have got it. And they said, well, can we speak to your two researchers? And he said, they've both emigrated, and I don't know where they are. I mean, basically he made all the stuff up. So it's scientism, which looks like science but isn't. But he didn't even do the science. It's just fabrication, and you find this so much in eugenic research. They just make shit up. And it's ridiculous. And this is why I want to talk about history. If people start talking about any of this stuff, about categorization, certification, any of this stuff, the fundamental foundation of their belief system is bollocks. And they need to understand it. There is no reason to defend any of this. There is no reason to defend this tightening of the meaning of being human, this exclusionary sense of which people matter, which people are proper, which people we should invest in, and which people, fundamentally, we should kill. And that's where it ended up, obviously. We know this is where eugenics ended up. But it's this process. The data, the categorization, the certification, the genetics. This is what creates it. So what we have, and you know, all of us, in all of our work, will be using categorization. We will be using data. The tools we use were designed by these people, and they're dirty. And they're tightening the design systemically out of our sense of control to do the thing they were designed to do. So the normal is creating the exclusion, and we obey it. We may not want to obey it, we may think we're not doing it, we may be lovely people, but this is what the tools do. So the other side of this, and it's in some ways a consequence of that, is we design for a weird world. Does anyone know weird? Hands up? No, a couple. Weird it's an acronym. Yeah. White, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic. It comes out of some discussion about who is actually in the data sets of research. And when they analysed quite a lot of the social research, basically it was these people. The majority of social psychology research is basically about a bloke called Chad, as far as I know. It's this. The other thing which is interesting is, can you see what's missing?
No.
Thank you. One other thing. Well, one other thing, which is... yeah, gender and disability are somehow missing from the thing which is talking about why we have missing diversity, which is a really weird thing, and nobody talks about it. Sort of whenever you see weird, it's just never talked that it completely ignores gender and disability.
There's also sexual orientation.
Well, yeah, it's so yes, sort of it piles on itself.
Yeah.
In terms of it's trying to sound as though it's doing something cool, and yet inherent in it still excludes because it's tracked by norm. Okay, how weird are things? Things are very weird. Journal of personality and social psychology, which is pretty much the premium one for social psychology research. Okay, percentage weirdness of their research. Give me a number.
90?
Well, that's pretty good, but still not enough.
98.
96. 96% of their research was about white, educated, industrialised, rich, democratic society people. It doesn't describe humanity. But inherent in the fact that the tools they're using, the research tools, all of these things, were developed by Quetelet, Galton, Bird, so forth. This isn't surprising. And the other side of this one, which is sort of fairly much sort of the twin of this, is of course that you get to convergence. If all of the methodologies, all the tools are converging to a group of people, then there's also an inherent convergence in the way that it talks of how we think. All of our design tools and processes value convergence. And we know that because we think that that's the way in which we complete projects. That's how we deliver. We converge, and then that means we get to where we need to get to. But there's a couple of things there. I mean, there's number one, you get groupthink. You're converging and you end up, because of the fact that you're all a tight group of people, and probably not a particularly mixed group of people, you will end up with groupthink. Groupthink comes up a lot in the Chilcot report. The Chilcot report was the report into the Iraq War, i.e. the question of how the hell did we end up killing thousands of people, wasting billions of dollars and pounds, and creating murderous terrorism across the world. And it's because the people who were talking and thinking were basically all guys in grey suits. They had no concept of the damage and consequences of what they were doing. They had no concept of other ways of thinking. You see in the American research into 9/11, the same thing. CIA, which was very full of very bright Harvard graduates, had no concept of how people from Arab nations were thinking or could think. And therefore, they could not perceive, they could not see the problems that were occurring and that were going to have hideous consequences. So groupthink is a thing. The other one, which is very related to, is design think. And design think is pretty much coming out of design thinking, which obviously I know for the last 20 years has been viewed as a good thing. And yet. Okay, double diamond. I don't care what you think about double diamond. It's fundamentally it's some form of design hieroglyph nowadays. It's whatever the hell it is. But putting aside whatever it is, there's two things in there. There's two things which are in the double diamond and are in the processes of design thinking that we see and feel. One is the idea of common knowledge. And going back to some of the discussions today about Miro and mural, and also that thing of sticking post-it notes on walls. Can I say I didn't really know the design industry until about 15 years ago? The post-it note thing was really weird. I just never seen it before. Common knowledge. You keep putting up post-it notes, you keep putting things onto murals, you keep putting things in artifacts onto a board. The board becomes common knowledge. The board becomes more than the people. The board becomes truth. The board becomes God. And it's not good. The process overwhelms the individuals. The process and its artifacts overwhelm thinking, so that you stop thinking, because things are common knowledge. Why would you question this? It's common knowledge. So there's an issue there. The other one is the exclusion in convergence. And again, this comes up a lot in co-design, where even in the nicest co-design processes, there is a point where people are shown the door. People are asked to leave, because now the designers will do it. I mean, there are some very, very good co-design projects which I've seen which don't do that. The majority that I have come across and know of don't behave well. They still have a habit of choosing a moment where some people are shown the door in order to allow convergence, in order to allow the right decisions to be made, the right choices to be made. And so, inherent in this sort of double diamond, inherent in the convergence, what are you doing with the ideas and the people who are being pushed away during those moments of convergence? And a lot of the time, it's just thrown away. And again, that's not good. And it's inherent in the design tool. So, convergent thinking fails. It can't perceive things which the members of the group are unaware of. And they're unaware of it because they come from a very specific and tight group of people. It can fail because the tools themselves, the processes themselves, lose detail. They lose other opinions. They lose what seems uncomfortable. And so it fails. So that's all the oh no. And there's a lot of oh no. And it's all bad. I mean, normal is not good. And yet it still remains. And this is what it does. And it has to do this, because it's what it's designed to do. The tools and methods will always build products and services privileged white men, because that's what they're designed to do. Explicitly, we don't talk about this. Implicitly, we do that. I believe there was a bit of cybernetics in the talk before now, but here's a bit more. Posywid. The purpose of the system is what it does. The purpose of the system normal is to design stuff for white men. That's what the system does. And yet, there is hope. There is ways of thinking about this. The crucial point about this, I mean, it's something which is quite often right in front of you, and you don't realise it's right in front of you, is that you should look at the big picture. All of these tools, all of these methods, all of these processes are doing this thing. And yet, we know it's a lie. And we know that actually there's hope and there's opportunity. So this slide is actually the whole of the data for this workshop. I mean, this talk. That's white men. That's the totality of everybody else on Earth. We're designing for that. And yet we could design for all that. The opportunity space is huge. We're pinned in there because of the tools and processes. We can let go. We can lose normal. And then we have vast possibilities of design, vast possibilities of new services and products. The opportunity space of post-model is vast, simply because it allows us to get past the trap that we're being put into. And so, to a certain extent, diversity is strategy. Diversity allows us to be able to think of so many people with so many different ways of thinking and being, and so many different needs. And divergence is resilient. If convergence is the trap, divergence is resilience. Because if we have divergent thinking, we're not going to get so trapped by things which are so bad, which are unperceivable by people who have a very tight sense of their own sense of being. So normal's a future that just can't work. It's fragile. It's tiny. And it's wrong. And this is just something I need to say here. Whenever I have this sort of thing, then people, and also you see it almost every time there's a crisis, people start talking about new normals. Don't do that. The problem is, inherent in saying the word normal, you immediately pull yourself back to that past where all of the stuff is. You can't escape the fact that normal is specifically designed and holding all of those old biases, all of those old prejudices, all of those privileges. So if you start talking about new normals, you're way back. You're not going to get there. You have to lose the normal. And you know, to some extent, normal's like the zombies at the door of the cabin. You shouldn't invite them back in. You should stop with the normal. Hold it back. And maybe stop saying the word normal. It's a beginning. Typical, regular, I have no issue with people saying things are typical. I have so many problems with saying things that regularly occur, or this is what some people regularly do. Not a problem. Because, yeah, a lot of people do things typically and regularly. But if you start using normal, you are inherently dragging into the room, dragging into your process, dragging into your project, a whole pile of other stuff which really shouldn't be there. So that's the end of that bit. And good, I'm on time. So what can we do? Okay, let's do something. Sadly, there was some printing which was done. It is lost. Sorry? Ah, it is here.
It's still warm.
It's lovely. Can you just help passing down rows? And then let's just do it here. There should be more. There should be enough. It's a zine. You just need to fold it. If you're uncertain of folding, we can do it. But anyway, have a moment of relaxation.
There's loads coming down as well. Thank you.
I'll talk while you find things. Okay.
Does anyone need?
Oops, there. Okay, what can we do? Normal's biased, we know that. Convergence is a trap, we know that. This is huge systemic problems. It's 190 years. It's well embedded into all the tools that you use. Academically, industrially, professionally, it's in there. Now, huge systemic problems are hugely systemic, which seems a bit unfair. Now, in this bit, it has to be said, I don't know all the contexts of your projects, your works, your lives. And therefore, offering solutions would be ridiculous. Because I don't know. I also have to say, and it is a logical fallacy in this whole talk, that you really shouldn't listen to an old white bloke offering you solutions. It's a very stupid thing to do. So I won't. But I will offer you some questions. What's come up in a lot of the work I've been doing certainly in the last year or so, which has mostly been in civic assemblies and co-design, is actually getting people to understand their own humanity and their own individuality. If the systemic problems are too large and we don't actually have systemic problem power to change them, what can we do as individuals, as communities, to do something about this? And so thinking about our humanity and our agency is important. And fundamentally realizing you matter is important. We are living during a period, particularly with AI and the rest of it, where the fact that you as human beings, as individuals, matter is being crushed by the idea that AI or technologies or whatever are somehow better than you, more intelligent, more useful. And they're not. The individual human being is still the most marvellous thing you can imagine. And you're marvellous. And you really need to remember that. A few years ago, I was asked to do some workshops for Scottish Government, actually, on resilience. How do we train our staff to survive the, frankly, systemically awful situation of our organisation? It's very stupid, because it basically puts all the pressure onto the individuals and then stands around saying, well, you seem to have broken. Resilience is very, very bad. So I ended up designing workshops on dissent. How do we get individuals to come together in small groups, and then large groups and large groups, to actually break poisonous systems? How to actually stop them doing things. And what we do is we create rhythms. We do things where you break the system's confidence and certainty. We live with over-certain systems. We live with over-confident systems, whether they be human beings in management or whether they be technologies. We break them. So what I would like you to do before we leave is to do some plotting and conniving. Because there is a way in which you can go back and break things. And what I would like you to think about is being loud and being quiet as questions. Be loud. What needs to be seen? The whole of this talk is trying to make the biases inherent in the processes explicit. What needs to be seen in your processes, in your companies and your projects? Make them explicit. How do you make them explicit? What needs to be broken? What parts of your processes which are smoothly layering over things, which should actually be viewed as something we need to talk about? The Nemeth book on saying no is very good on the concept of sceptical generalists and persistent specialists. There are a load of cards over here which are leftover projects. That is the good dissent, bad dissent card, which is pretty much comes out of that one. Be quiet. Who needs to speak up? Who do you know who doesn't get to speak up, and how do you support them? Who isn't in the room, who should be in the room, and how do you help them? And who needs to shut up? Quite often the person who needs to shut up, well, particularly myself, is the people who have the privilege of being able to speak. These are also cards which you can use. These are the shut up cards I use. It's just to make people think, particularly professionals, at what point they shut up and actually leave space for people with living or lived experiences. Because we forget, we just keep talking. And a lot of the dissent theory comes from the fact that you should just start with one chat, with one person. And remember, and this comes up in the Bregman stuff, people want to matter. They want to do stuff that matters. And also, which comes the crucial thing which comes up in his book, is people will help if you ask them. quite often people never get asked. Just ask. So when thinking about plotting, think of a colleague and a friend. Think of a specific person. Imagine something you can do together, way in which you can create making something explicit, some way you can help somebody talk. Write this down. And then invite them for a chat and ask them. The way in which you change the system, the way in which individuals change systems, is in small acts of dissent. And you all can do it, if you choose to. So, how long do I have?
Just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I've got 10 minutes left on mine, but whatever. Sorry, is that?
25 minutes is when I always start you finish it in 45 past.
Okay, we can do that. Right. So, we'll skip past that. Commit to doing one small thing. Commit to one small act of dissent. Commit to having one conversation with one friend or colleague about doing something that just nudges the process away from normal. That's where things start. That's how one conversation becomes two conversations, becomes more conversations. We break the system slowly. We keep questioning. The reason normal and other things overwhelm us is because they seem flat and complete. You need to keep breaking the system in order to see its faults. And you need to start asking. The way in which change occurs is just by asking somebody, can they help? And we can do more. There's a lot of systemic power against us, but there's a lot of us. Snowflakes create avalanches. It is a really important thing to remember. So go plotting, go drawing. That's it. Thank you.